Hello, everyone. I'm Vernā Myers, and I want to welcome you to a very special episode of Sundays with Vernā. This past week, I had the privilege of doing our first in-studio podcast recording. There is just something about being in person that you cannot replicate. And I think you're going to feel that come through in this conversation. Let me tell you a little bit about Kevin Shird. Kevin is a nationally recognized author and educator, speaker, and social justice advocate whose life's work centers on healing and transformation. After overcoming tremendous personal challenges, he dedicated his career to helping others break cycles of trauma and build better futures, proving that with the right support, real transformation is possible at both the individual and the community level. With over a decade of advocacy, Kevin has worked at the intersection of mental health, public health policy, and criminal justice reform, including contributing to President Obama's Clemency Initiative, which helped release over 1,400 nonviolent offenders, and partnering with the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. He has also developed evidence-based programs educating youth about drug misuse. Kevin served as an associate at Johns Hopkins University Center for Medical Humanities and Social Medicine and taught at Coppin State University. He continues to lead the A Life for a Life Foundation, empowering individuals and communities to heal and thrive. This is part one of our two-part conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
Thanks.
Welcome.
That's a lot of jobs.
I know, right? Oh my gosh, we're so happy to have you here at
Thank
Sundays
you.
with Vernā. I mean, we want to go deep here.
Yeah.
With your permission.
Absolutely.
But before we start, I just want to ask you about language. Okay? Because I know that some people think that sometimes we are too interested in languaging, but I like to give people their respect in any way that we can bring dignity to people's lives and experiences by actually getting the terminology correct.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways that people refer to folks who have experienced incarceration. Yeah. What do you prefer and what do you hate as far as how people refer to you?
You know, I've been doing this work so long now. I was called the ex-con in 2016.
Yes.
And then an ex-offender later that year. And then a returning citizen. And now justice impacted. I just like to be called Kevin.
There's that. Yes. Good point.
And I get it. You know, the work is evolving, but words do matter. And I appreciate what you just mentioned. Like, words absolutely do matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've been doing this work so long that my commitment to the work, commitment to helping people better their lives, commitment to folks coming out of prison, being able to turn the corner. You know, prison is a place, federal prison is a place that I've met some of the most brilliant people I've ever met in life, right? And so I know that for a fact. Like, I met these folks. I ate dinner with them. I was in cells with them. I mean, years and years. And so you know when people are genuine about anything. But it's a place where I met some of the most brightest, brilliant people in my life that have made some mistakes.
Yeah, you know, so much before we started this interview, I started thinking about Brian Stevenson's quote.
Yeah.
That, you know, we're better than the worst thing that we've ever done. And I really feel like if people could hold that truth, you know, they want people to see that about them.
Right.
Right? Because we've all done something that we're not proud of or that has had really difficult consequences as a result. But we're not those people.
Yeah.
That's not who we are. So help us understand how we got here. I mean, it's a long story, I understand, but tell us a little bit about your first transition. Like, what got you to prison? What was it like to go from being, I don't know, I'm gonna say not incarcerated. I was gonna say free, but I don't know if that is the proper description of how you felt in that moment in time. But like, what got you there? What got you through? And what keeps you now?
What got me there was the disbelief that the underground drug economy was the only way out of poverty.
Okay.
That's what got me there. At 16 years old, I was sitting on a porch in Baltimore, front steps, about 8 o'clock at night, and a car pulled up. And with two of my friends, a car pulled up, and a gentleman left the keys in the car and ran in the house. And me and my friends were sitting out there, 16 years old, mischievous. And we decided to steal the car. And the crazy thing about it, none of us really knew how to drive a car. So we take the key. The car's already running. We pull off this big Lincoln Continental. It's like driving a boat. Right, the car's literally rocking. And eventually we decided, because we didn't know how to drive, that we needed to pull over. And we pulled over, and then we decided let's search the car and see. Like, and so at 16, we're not like, yeah, we're going to take some rims and we're going to take it to, we have no idea. But we searched the car and found a bag full of money. And inside the bag was also, being honest, church tithes.
Really?
The gentleman was a clergy member. Yes. And we just made mistakes after mistakes after mistakes that led down this path. We took that money and bought marijuana, began selling marijuana. Some months later, began selling cocaine. Some months later, we began selling heroin. And it just led to me entering into this world, starting at age 16. With by age 23, I'm making over $150,000 a week. And so, it was never this big plan like, hey, I want to sell drugs and I want to, and this is my way out of poverty. Like, it's just event after event after event.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, tell me you didn't know it was church tithes. Did you know it was church tithes?
Unfortunately, by the time we opened the bag and saw these
the envelopes,
white, it was the white envelopes.
Okay, so
gave it away.
It's one of the things that you talk about in your book, choices.
Choices, yes.
So many choices in that one little scenario.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't touch the car.
Right.
You can't drive.
You can't drive.
Leave the money.
It seems like this is
Give
hard.
It back.
This is difficult. Maybe pull it over. Then something says, check the car. So one of the things, you tell us more about what you mean when you say choices and impact, and what's happening prior to the choice.
So what my research today about trauma and unresolved trauma, unresolved trauma has a direct impact on poor choices, according to research.
Tell us more about that.
Well, I was actually began doing research with my fourth book, A Life for Life, unresolved poor choices, unresolved trauma is killing America, and I had spoke to a psychiatrist, and they were really defining trauma, because that's a big word, right?
Yes, and everyone's using it all the time.
And everybody's using, but what does it really mean? And so they kind of broke it down to me that unresolved trauma has a direct impact on poor choices. So you go back to age 16, growing up with a substance abusing parent, in a poverty-stricken neighborhood, experiencing violence in that community at a really, really young age. And so for sure I was dealing with unresolved trauma, but I was certainly making poor choices, right? And I think from that point on, once I got involved in the underground drug economy, life just took on a whole new, my life took on a whole new face.
In what way?
Being involved in that business, being exposed to violence, now you're making all this money, you got to protect it. There's no law enforcement to call if something goes wrong. So then now you find yourself in other situations. The truth was, I hated selling drugs.
Yeah.
I hated it. Every day I was picking up a shopping bag full of cash from West Baltimore, but I hated it.
What made you hate it?
Because I knew it was wrong. I knew that life in that business was short. I loved the money. I'm not going to lie, but I hated the way that I was making the money. I hated the people I had to engage with. I hated the violence that was involved in those situations. I hated that. I knew I had friends that really didn't care. People that were more cared because of the money.
Yeah.
Versus me. You could feel it. Yeah. So I hated that.
Your associations are you can only trust it. Yeah, they're totally transactional. You can only trust it, but so much. I was talking to like a very accomplished criminal attorney one time. In my naivete, I was asking him, like, why is there so much violence? And I don't understand, like, what? And he was like, look, I mean, people are running like a retail business. They're not they're not like in a manufacturer, warehouse kind of situation. They're not like the big dogs. They're the folks who are on the street. They've got certain territory. And they need to protect it. And there's no police force that's going to help them protect it. It's illegal, right? So they have to have their own version of it. And I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense, right? But it took me, I was still like one of those people, uninitiated in the world, wondering like, why do we have so much violence? But you just explained it. And it's not because you like it. It's because in some ways you're entrepreneurs. You're taking advantage of what is available, but you also know that it is ripe for like a not so positive end. And so you land in jail.
Yes. I land in
Or do we call
prison.
it prison? We call it federal prison.
Yeah. I land in prison.
How long are you there?
In total, I spent 12 years in prison in total. And that was an experience.
Give us some, and then don't tell us everything because I want people to buy your book.
Okay.
A Life for a Life. I could not put this book down. And your descriptions, you're an incredible writer, first of all.
I appreciate
But
that.
it's also really hard to read.
I've heard that.
Yeah, because of the things that you're revealing. But tell us a little bit about, I guess, one experience that really kind of changed how you were seeing the time you were spending there. Because obviously you came from being a person who could do what they want and you're like living life kind of large, but kind of scary at the same time. But now you're in
prison. Yeah. One experience, and this is a true story, was when I was in a courthouse cell block with the DC sniper, Muhammad.
I remember you mentioning
and
this.
Muhammad and Malvo, and we were in the court lockup. They were in prison cells. I was in this. Malvo was in the cell right next to me. He was. I think at the time he was probably 16, 15 years. He looked like a little kid, in middle school. Like it was unreal. They had just got arrested like maybe 3 days earlier. They had just been arrested. And they came in and I remember the marshals walking Malvo down the corridor and putting him in the cell right next to me, and then taking Muhammad, walking him in the other direction, and then putting him in a cell on the other end. And I remember Malvo yelling, no, excuse me, Muhammad, the older gentleman, yelling, Leroy, Leroy. And they were communicating kind of in like a Jamaican dialect.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just I couldn't believe. First of all, I said to myself, they must have not watched the news. Like, you're the most wanted people in America right now.
Right.
And I heard him saying stuff to the effect of, we'll be out of here soon. And I'm like, have you seen the news? Like, the whole country is after you, and now they have you. You're in a federal court system with federal laws, where prosecutors are going to really make an example out of you.
Yeah. Why did that have such an impact on you?
Because it also showed me the delusion of some folks that are out committing crimes, like the delusion of it. Like, yeah, all that's cool at the moment until you get caught. And then when you get caught, your whole world is going to turn upside down, right? And I was in federal prison with guys like John Gotti's brother, Gene Gotti, mafia guys, spies that have been arrested by the federal government, all kinds of characters. Any kind of character you can mention, I'd been around some really interesting characters.
I saw you search for the word you were going to use for that.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say tough guys, but to be honest with you, I don't even know what that means anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it tough to sell heroin in your neighborhood? Is that a tough guy, or is that a guy that doesn't have direction and don't really understand the impact that what he's doing to his community?
I do remember going to visit a really close member of my family in prison, and they were new to prison at the time. And I was like, how's it going? And they were like, there's some bad people in here.
Yeah.
It was like, maybe I've done wrong, but they're like versions of human beings in here that I've never seen before. And it's scary.
They're versions.
And sadly, some of them are the guards as well.
That too.
So
yeah.
I felt so upset and so sad for this person because they made choices that got them into the environment where they can't make many choices, including the company that they are with.
Like, who you live with, who you eat with, who you go to the shower with. I mean, this is your community now. One of the things that helped me prepare for that environment was the fact that I grew up in the streets of Baltimore. Like, I really, really grew up. Was I involved in crime the entire time? No, I was just a young kid, but I was used to being around these characters, right? I knew how to listen for certain things, right? Maneuver around certain things, and then you may have to defend yourself when the time comes, and yeah, of course, we definitely had that, but I also used education and athletics as a way to manage the time.
Yeah, so tell me about that, because I was going to ask you, like, how'd you get through?
Yeah.
In a way that has allowed you to be so impactful now, right?
Yeah.
And because we're going to talk about the experience and how it actually can sometimes be extremely detrimental for people once they are released. But
Mhm.
you had a very different trajectory. And so, tell us more. You said education
And
and
athletics.
athletics.
And ironically, they were the same two tools that I used to manage the early years of growing up in poverty. My mother prioritized education as much as she could. I was in a Head Start program, ended up in a program like the GATE, Gifted and Talented Education Program. As a kid, third grade, fourth grade, reading Shakespeare, right? I wasn't in some private school doing this. I just ended up in these programs because we were in poverty, living in poverty. But then I played every sport you can imagine. Also growing up, baseball, football, basketball, and those were ways. So, when I was in prison, I used those same tools to manage being incarcerated. I stayed, I was always involved I ran a lot. So I ran miles. I would run miles a day, but I also spent a lot of time in the law library education building and taking college courses in federal prison. And because I knew at some point I would need these tools to have a life. Wasn't sure what life, but I knew education would be super helpful. So just education and trying to stay and manage the stress of incarceration through like working out, running, and there was times I was like just miserable, managing a lot of mental stress and just the pain of incarceration. But the running, I actually talked to a psychologist later, and he told me about how fitness impacts the brain.
Yeah. Tell us more about that, because it absolutely does.
Yeah, he talked about how fitness releases the feel good hormones,
Dopamine and so forth.
dopamine, and I can remember feeling horrible before the run, and then after the run feeling like I took a drug, right? And I couldn't always explain that. All I knew is it made me feel a lot better.
I used to play basketball, and I was always waiting for that feeling.
Really?
We always had to run like 3 miles. I'm like, where is that feeling that everyone talks about? I never got it. I'm glad you did. But okay, so you had some go-tos. Yeah. You knew school, you knew, reading and education and also athletics. But what new habits did you have to actually develop in order to move through that transition as well as you did?
Wow, the new. I think the commitment to education, because I got away from it in early high school. We started smoking weed and not being focused, and I ended up dropping out of high school in the 12th grade to pursue a career in selling drugs, which is crazy. And you look back at it, but for me, really just getting back to the fundamentals, right? Prioritizing, fitness when I really didn't know. I didn't have all the answers. I just knew it made me feel better.
Yeah.
And I also knew it made me, taking college courses made me feel better. It made me feel like I was doing something right for a change. It made me feel like I was prepared for a future, even though I never knew what that future would be. But I thought I was pulling together some tools. And I stayed around guys that, I was friends with guys that had 60 years, 70 years, 50 years, and were also committed to that, right? Now, mind you, they would be in the law library every day filing
for their cases,
filing cases. One guy, I remember, he had actually got a hearing with the Supreme Court on a crack cocaine case down in Washington, D.C. Guys were actually given time back. 30-year sentences, 40-year sentences going. And many guys weren't, but they didn't stop fighting. But they still had a discipline, right, in that. But so these are guys, and also stayed around. I was in prison with lawyers. I was in prison with doctors. yeah, I would talk to these guys. We would gravitate, and I would learn stuff from them about just in general. I learned more about Africa in prison than I ever knew about trade.
Yeah.
It was one guy that was deeply involved in African trade in West Africa. So these are the people that I'm around daily for years, and you take some pieces from those conversations and you utilize them to help you get through that time as well.
So did something change in your mentality, in your heart? Like what happened?
Would change, yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. No, absolutely. A lot changed. A lot changed. Because now, like I mentioned to you, I didn't like selling drugs, but I loved the money. But then in prison, I also learned, you can also make this much money and not sell drugs. Like you can be like coming out of a impoverished situation. So I would read a lot. I would read about folks like Reginald F. Lewis. Funny story. I actually read about Congressman Ron Dellums, who actually wrote the anti-apartheid legislation that got Nelson Mandela out of prison. And then years later, true story, I actually met him and he became my mentor. Right? But you read about black men that aren't engaged in crime, that aren't engaged in destroying their community, and aren't engaged in things that are harming people, but they're engaged in things that are uplifting people, making people better. And it's motivating, and so that's why I try to fashion my life that way now, that I want a young black kid to look at any kid to look at my life and say, you can make mistakes, but you can also pull it together and have a real lasting impact on community.
Yeah.
And that's my goal now.
And have a sense of yourself as a person who can make that kind of contribution, which is a psychological shift, right? In some respects, you're seeing yourself through a different lens and through your identity changes.
And you got to believe it too.
Yeah.
Like you have to believe it.
Yeah.
You have to believe that I'm not the ex-con. I'm not the ex-offender. I'm not the, I am I'm an entrepreneur guy. I'm a business guy. I'm a college professor. You know what I mean? You got to believe that stuff. And then once you believe it, that's a good portion of the battle. And also, let me just be real clear. You got to get around people, right, that help you kind of reinforce that. Also, people that you can learn from. Because mind you, I knew the streets well, but I still had to learn some stuff. So I remember taking college courses. My first course was Marketing 101. And I remember the first day or two in college class in federal prison, and the professor is talking about target marketing. He's describing target marketing, and I'm like, wow, we did that on the street corner.
Interesting.
So later, it's a term. It's actually called transferable skills, right? And so I learned that a lot that I learned in the street, not everything, but some of it can be transferred over into the legitimate world, like marketing. So I ended up taking college courses on marketing, and I feel like I'm a great marketer now. But it's still stuff I look back that we did on the street corner to market, illegal drugs in the community. But then learning about those things in college is like, this is how, like sales, marketing, leadership. There are some transferables, some stuff you need to leave behind. But it's absolutely some stuff that you could take with you, that you can utilize to build a life or get a job or be an asset to a company.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah. So you then get out.
I get released in 2006.
In 2006.
January 3rd, 2006.
And how old are you at that point?
30-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in my 30s at the time, and life is scary.
Tell me about it.
It was the first time I remember the first day coming home and being at the halfway house, and the guy's like, you go ahead and you can call your family. So he hands me a cell phone. I don't even know how to use it. Yeah.
Yeah, time has gone by.
I don't know how to use a cell phone. And he's showing me like, oh, you know, and mind you, in 06, they were probably like it still had the cursor.
Yes, exactly.
You had to move the cursor over to press call, right? With the big call, like.
Exactly.
And yeah, I still didn't know how to use a cell phone at the time. So it was things that I took, while I was in the halfway house, I signed up for more college classes. My very first college class was a class on computer literacy. And so I'm sitting I'm leaving the halfway house on Saturdays, going to Baltimore City Community College, taking a computer literacy class. And I'm in the class with a bunch of people. I have no idea I'm in a halfway house. But the thing we all had in common, all of us was computer literate. And so we're all trying to figure out how to use Windows, how to use Word, how to use. But I also knew that the answer is education. If I'm gonna do anything, if I'm gonna survive this mess that I put myself in, I'm gonna need education.
Yes.
Yeah. And so even when I got out, I still pursued that. Yeah. It was education.
What was you have the halfway house, which is supposed to be like a transitional space.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately I imagine you graduate from the halfway house. Mm-hmm. What are the biggest adjustments? Like you're now out. You're no longer confined. You have a specific schedule and limited space. The world is now open.
Yeah.
What is that like, transitioning into that space?
It's scary, and you're nervous, and you're not sure if you're gonna make it, and you keep hearing this big word called recidivism.
Like you're reading all the statistics, and you're like, it's not looking good.
And you're like,
I don't want to be one of those.
I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
But then also you imagine something too. You gotta understand somebody in my situation. It was a time I had 30 people working for me. So when I came back, the people that were here, they didn't know I had changed. They didn't know I was taking college courses in prison. They didn't know that I kind of developed this disdain for dealing drugs. So now I'm confronted with these folks. And I remember the very first day a guy confronted me. He was in front of Lexington Market. And I guess I can't even remember how I got there. I guess I was getting something to eat. And he came and he's like, hey, Kevin, hey, buddy. And like, hey, man, how you doing? I had no idea who he was. But then he started running down details. Yeah, I remember we was on so-and-so street, and so-and-so was doing this and that and this and that. And yeah, I remember you used to drive that black car. It was a nice car, man. And I still didn't know who he was. But I knew he knew me well because he gave me too many details. Mm-hmm. And then he said something to the effect like, man, when can I get that package from you? And I was like, I was stunned into a bit stunned, not much, but a little. But then I remember saying, man, I'm retired, bro. I ain't into that no more.
How did he
take
that?
The look on his face was like, you are lying.
Oh,
like,
really?
Oh yeah, easily. Because I was, for him, if he remembered all of that, if he remembered us bringing in all that money, dominating this whole community. There's no way now he thinks, oh, I'm finished.
See, and this is the thing that I think you're saying, that a lot of people who are trying to make changes in their lives and trying to transform, there are people who knew them when and are not going for it.
They're not buying it.
They're not buying it. You're like, how could you be so steeped in this? And how could you be a person who did this or thought this way or had this job or whatever and not be that person now?
I remember somebody I was dating, right, approached me kind of in that way. I bought this car like for like $500. It was like a Nissan Sentra, I think it was.
Right.
Like old car, but it was enough to get me around. And I bought it in the halfway house. And I remember I pulled up next to her in the car, and I never forget it. And I actually used that as fuel for 10 years.
What happened?
She said, when I got out of the car, like shaking, like, And I said, I said, what? She said, And I said, what? She looked me in my eyes and said, I thought you was going to blow up when you came out here. And I was like, oh, really?
What did she mean by that?
Go back in the drug business. She was looking at the car.
Yeah, because you've been good at something. People expect you to go back to that thing.
Even if people, not just people you engaged in business, but personal relationships as well.
Yes.
And those are the most dangerous ones, because those are the ones that impact you the most. You're not so worried so much about what a coworker said, but the person you used to have affection for, when they start saying it, then that's different.
You said you used it for fuel. I
used it
imagine
for
there are a lot
fuel.
of people for whom that comment would send them back the wrong direction.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why I use it as fuel, because what I thought was, if this person ever cared about me at all, there's no way they would approach me like that. Knowing everything I just went through to get here, to approach me like that, this person never cared in the least bit. And so again, I used it as fuel, because honestly, I needed to show this person that I will survive and I will not go back. And not only will I survive, but I will prosper.
You will blow up on your own terms.
I'm going to blow up on my own terms.
Yes.
And yeah, I never told him like, hey, thanks for the motivation. And they, and they would see me around and be like not so happy, like. But listen, when you're transitioning in any capacity, you got to take ownership of that. You got to take it. You got to embrace the good, the bad, the ugly, and certainly it's going to be people that are not rooting for you, and you got to get used to that.
This is part one of our conversation. I could not have asked for a better guest to share this moment with. He is someone whose life and work and commitment is to transformative justice and healing. And he's truly, truly inspiring. I hope you will enjoy part two as well. I'm so excited to invite you to follow us and to catch up with all of our conversations. We're on anywhere you can find your podcast. We are there at Sundays with Vernā. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Insta at Vernā Myers, and also find our website, vernamyers.com, where you can keep in touch with all that we are doing. See you there.